The Negativland element that follows was, I guess, for Klaus especially, the expression of his deep frustration when the parents of his girlfriend decided to move back to Norway, and they were not very happy about the relationship between Klaus and their daughter. This seems to happen a lot. It also happened to me that the parents of my girlfriend were not happy about me. But in the case of Klaus Dinger, he had this anger, which sometimes in his case led to amazing creativity in later years. For instance, Hero is one wonderful example of the creative energy Klaus got out of these feelings of despair, of anger, frustration. And I think the jackhammer was even could be a disappointment, but it's just some kind of a sound source we found in the studio. It was the disruption. I think it was included, no, I don't think, I know it was included to disrupt the harmony of Im Glück, the peaceful, joyful boat ride Klaus shared with his girlfriend. And suddenly the disruption of this joy. The phasing, and that was Connie Planck's contribution, they added this special flavor. It's like somebody, when you cook with 3 people and then one adds spices, special spices, and suddenly there's a new life, a new color in the dish, and it's wonderful the way Connie Planck used phasing. He stood between 2 tape machines in the studio with identical mixes and then did what people used to do, slow down one machine by putting his hand on the reel and then letting go at the right moment and listening to the effect of these phased sounds. I played bass on Negativland. Everything Klaus played was sort of played like a drum. So he played a Japan banjo. Also in the case of Negativland, you see the marvelous work of Connie Planck, who phased the Japan banjo, which in itself is all good and fine. He played it very rhythmically and interesting, quite slightly dissonant. But the magic starts the moment when Connie added his manual phasing to this recording. And suddenly there's this, it's some kind of like a dust, a cloud of dust, which moves up and down. I don't know, just thinking of Stranger Things, something like that, you know, the series. But this wall of sound which drifts above the straightforward bass and drum elements, this is the result of Connie Planck's wonderful treatment. Another example of his creativity. Yeah, I hate to say this, but Klaus uttered some claims which I cannot support, and maybe my memory was a bit different than that of Klaus. He cannot, of course, he's no longer around, so he cannot disagree or contradict me. If Klaus claims that it was his Japan banjo which made movement, maybe he's right, he was right, but maybe it was slightly different. Klaus, I mean, it's common knowledge, I guess, amongst the fans that we were in later years also on not so friendly terms. He caused a lot of problems due to his the development of his career and the freedom, the liberties he took with my music behind my back. But in the end, for me, since Klaus has died, I prefer to focus on his great creativity, which enabled me to, with him and Connie Planck, to record that music. But some of the claims Klaus has uttered, especially in the 90s when he was sort of living on a different planet, it was very difficult for me to handle that. And I mean, I don't know if I should even talk about this, but it's not even a secret because he said so on his website back then. He was proud of having taken more than 1,000 LSD trips. So that was, I guess, one of the reasons why he got estranged from so many people and also from me. And I couldn't handle that. We spent 10 years struggling to find an agreement about the NEU re-releases. And we were again very fortunate when somebody appeared on the scene, somebody nobody would have expected. I don't know if he's so famous in the States, but Herbert Grönemeyer is a German musician. He was also famous for his acting in films like Das Boot, this famous U-boat film. But he's a household name in Germany. He sells millions of albums. And when he had the very unhappy period when his wife died in the late 90s and also his brother. And he was blocked. He couldn't work on music, but he had still, because he's a very energetic, powerful person, wanting to create things. And so he stumbled, again, so many coincidences around my life. He didn't know Neu, the music of Neu, but he was in this photo shoot in London and somebody decided to play Hallo Gallo, I think it was, Neu music. And Herbert Grönemeyer said, "What's that? That's interesting." And they told him, "Yeah, there are two German guys." Where can I get it? "Oh, you can't get it. They are crazy. They refuse to release the music and they can't get along with each other and they are total hopeless cases." And so when Herbert heard this, he suddenly had this idea, well, this is a challenge for me. I want to make this happen. This music deserves to be presented to the world again, because there were only bootlegs in the 90s. You could find them everywhere. And so Herbert set out on this mission to convince, especially Klaus. I didn't need convincing because I was always willing to release the music, but Klaus distrusted people. He thought everyone was there to rip him off. That was the sad story of the time. And Herbert Grönemeyer, in individual talks with each of us, and sometimes talking with both of us at the same time, tried to find out where the problems were, what prevented this music from being released. And he started his own label, Grönland, and NEU was the first release on that label. He managed to convince Klaus, and I don't know, I will forever be thankful for Herbert Grönemeyer for his contribution to help NEU being presented to younger audiences, you know, not only 30 years later, but 50 years later, it's still on Grönland Records, and it's amazing. But I already mentioned the effect of lucky circumstances, and that was one of the major elements also in our career. Yeah, Negativland. I also see it as a positive element because I didn't share this frustration, of course. I play Negativland live these days and people really enjoy it. And I also enjoy playing Negativland. So it's not with a feeling of frustration. It's also another nice example of noise forward moving music.